Hey everyone, welcome to our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. This is yet another follow-on. So it is now Tuesday morning. It is already 10 a.m. I have spent the morning setting up schoolwork and stuff for the kids this morning, assessing what needs to be done and getting their classes sorted and stuff like that. And am now out in the kitchen. I've had a request for pancakes for breakfast, and I think brunch. I think pancakes sounds really nice. So I think I'm going to make some pancakes, just a basic standard pancake recipe. I will mix that up in a second and we will cook that. The dehydrator was running yesterday with all the mushrooms in it. I overloaded the dehydrator a bit. I said I probably did. It ran until dusk, but wasn't quite as dry as I would like, so I turned it off, which means it was going to accumulate a bit more moisture overnight because I couldn't run it overnight. So I've just turned it back on again for a couple of hours and then that will be done. I may do another load, but actually spread them out properly this time. I should have time to do another load of spread out ones this afternoon once this is done, because they only take 4 or 5 hours if I spread them out properly. I should have thought about it when I did them bundled up, but I was just trying to get as much done as possible. I've got the Worcestershire sauce on the stove still. It was from yesterday and I didn't get it strained, so I'm actually going to bring that back up to temperature because I want to put it in the jars hot. So I'm going to bring it back up to temperature before straining it, because it's always easier to strain it when it's warm as well. And then get that in jars. Now it's basically vinegar. Nothing will have happened to it overnight, and we're actually having fairly cool evenings at the moment, so that's done. The mushrooms were canned last night. They are ready to get all the rings off all the jars and get all the jars relocated to the shelves, so that is sorted. I still have a whole lot of mushrooms to do something with though. I have that dog food that needs to be sorted and all those roasted tomatoes that need to be sorted. And I still was going to do something with all that fruit to clean out some more room in the freezer, but I'll see how the day goes, because I could always leave that for next weekend, because we're picking up the Half a Beast on Monday, I think. It can be Sunday or Monday, but Sunday Darryl has church in a couple of different towns. He goes to a couple of different towns in one Sunday of each month to help out with service in different places. So I think it'll probably be Monday, and I might send him to pick it up. We'll see how we go. And so I might leave the fruit because of that, I think. So first up, let's get some pancakes made. Just some nice basic pancakes. We have pistachio spread and we have chocolate hazelnut spread. We have fresh jam. We have maple syrup. I don't think I've got any bacon defrosted, but by the time they're cooked, I could probably have some bacon defrosted. I could fry some bacon up with it. I really like maple syrup and bacon on my pancakes. I could just make a pancake bake, but I feel like real pancakes. We don't have them very often. We also have some loaves of bread from the hamper, so I could have done French toast, but I feel like pancakes, and someone requested them. So let's get them mixed up first. All right, so I just do a really basic pancake recipe. It's similar to, the texture and stuff ends up similar to like a Macca's pancake in my opinion. I'm only going to do a half of what my normal size batch is, because I just feel like that's all we really need today. So I want to put about 450 grams of flour. I'm going to put some salt, just a couple of pinches of salt in there. I'm going to put about half a cup of sugar. Three tablespoons of baking powder. Do you want to grab a wooden spoon or a spatula or something? Whisk, whatever. I've got 3 eggs here. Let's whisk the dry ingredients together. And we're going to add 3 cups of milk. I don't mind using cup measures for pancakes because you can just easily adapt it. We've got the 3 eggs, the 3 cups of milk. We're going to use about 1/8 of a cup of oil. I'm not going to measure it. And that's it. We're just going to bring it all together. And if it's a little too thin, you can add a little flour. If it's a little too thick, you can add a little milk. Get it to the right consistency for what you want. The thinner it is, the more it's going to spread out. So the thinner your pancakes are going to be, the thicker it is, the thicker your pancakes are going to be, and they'll end up more like pikelets rather than pancakes. It's personal preference how you want it to be. So that's all mixed up. I'm going to let it sit for 5 minutes while we heat the pans up, and then I'll assess the texture. I like to do them 4 to a pan, and I like this texture. So we've got a ladle in here, and it's thick but not too thick. I like that texture. So they're a little bit thinner. It can be a little bit thicker, but I find that this is good because you want a few of them. I like to have them thinner so that you can eat like a few of them rather than too puffy, because then they get a little bit overpowering. So we do them like normal. Everyone's made pancakes before. Get bubbles breaking on the top, and then we'll flip them. The first lot of pancakes in every batch is always a little bit messy. It's just the way it is until you get the pan right and the batter right and everything else, or you try and flip them too early, or first batch of pancakes always are a bit of a test run. So the first batch actually didn't turn out too bad. So nice, thin, fluffy pancakes. Breakfast today. All right, so Kavik filled the dehydrator with me with more mushrooms. I got all those dried ones out and got them in a jar to condition. I found as many of these containers as I could in the freezer. Some had some fruit in them. I've given them a rinse. I'm not concerned about them being overly clean because it's for dog food. And they're going straight back in the freezer anyway. So I've got now, unfortunately, because of the gelatinous factor of what this is, it's gone almost solid already, just from being in the fridge. Now, realistically, I could probably use a ice cream scoop and almost set it in ice cream scoop sizes on a flat tray. I didn't really think about that. But this is a bit neater for in the freezer. So I'm going to do this. So this is what the dog food looks like once it's chilled and set up. It looks like tin dog food, pretty much. So all I'm going to do, which is why I can't can it too. I considered canning it, but I think I'd have to can it before it was pureed. I'd have to can it as all the bones and everything still, because this is too viscous to can. The heat wouldn't penetrate it, and because it's dog food, it's not being... So a lot of things, like when you think about doing things that are outside the rules as such, some things are a better option to do outside of those rules. So if you're water bath canning something that you think should be acidic enough, you're not real sure, and you choose to do it anyway, worst thing that's going to happen, the seal's going to fail, it's going to go moldy. Pressure canning things is the risk is botulism. That's the biggest pressure canning risk. Now, 10 minutes of boiling will kill botulism spores. So if you're doing something like a stock or a soup or something, and you've edged the rules a little bit, it's so long as you boil it for 10 minutes and it otherwise looked okay, you should be fine. But something like this doesn't get heated, so I'm not going to play with the canning of it just in case something went wrong. So I'm just going to freeze it in these, and then they can be stacked in Ziploc bags, and because they're in these squares, they stack really neatly.
And the dog's ear has great.
And the dogs will eat a whole square each, yeah. So
It's not too much food.
no, because you're only looking at like a third of a tin of dog food, I suppose. I don't know. Actually, these might be a cup, might be half a tin of dog food, but we have big dogs. So the goal is just to fill as many of these as possible. The Kmart muffin ones are a little bit smaller than these ones, the squares, but still fine. And get them in the freezer. And then once they're frozen solid, I'll pop them out and I'll stack them in Ziploc bags in a way that makes it easy to take up less space. So now I have, like, while Kavik was doing the mushrooms, I labelled all my chicken stock jars and rearranged my shelves a bit to fit everything on. This is what I was going to show you. This is what the mushrooms look like, the canned mushrooms. So Darryl's going to give those a go once we've finished all the fresh ones. And yeah, I'm just gonna fill all these. I've reheated the Worcestershire sauce, so the next thing will be straining that. All right, dog food done. Heaps of dog food in the freezer in those molds, and then I will pull it out once it's frozen. I've got a colander, the bowl, flour sack tea towel, and we have our Worcestershire sauce. So I'm going to grab a jug and I'm going to strain it through the flour sack tea towel. Now there's always a lot of residue, a lot of sediment in these because of the plums and stuff, and I did find that it was a bit much when it just went through a standard colander. So I'm going to push it through the cloth as well. Now I reduced this a fair bit because I find when I want to add Worcestershire sauce as a flavour, I don't want to add too much extra liquid. I want the flavour, but I want it pretty condensed. So I took it down. I'm trying to think of, I've got that, this is really warm because I reheated it because it's always easier to strain when it's hot, but that makes it harder to squeeze. But I will push it through with a spatula as well. The other thing I've got to do today, because I work tomorrow and the next day, and I know I get home at 3:30, but I'm pretty wiped. This is really hard on the sinuses too, so, you know. So the next thing I need to do is those tomatoes. I've got a container of roasted garlic cloves in the freezer that I found when I was cleaning out the freezer, that I had forgotten was there. So I think I'll do a roasted tomato garlic marinara type sauce. I was going to roast some potatoes for dinner tonight because we got a bag of potatoes with the hamper. I need to double check the fridge because I think I left some chicken mince or something out when I was doing the freezer as well, so I need to check that. Because that needs using as well. Maybe I'll do roasted potatoes with some, we got leftover marinara, some seasoned chicken mince or something, and leftover risotto. Sorry, I think I said leftover marinara. Chicken something and some marinara. I don't know. I'm going to throw something together. I need to get this into some jars as well, so get something to put in. Now my preference for Worcestershire sauce is these Muddy Passata jars, except that I mentioned yesterday I forgot to order more lids for them again. I do have some lids that we keep as we use them though, which is fine because we don't have to process the Worcestershire sauce, so it doesn't matter if they're reused lids. So these jars have been washed in nice warm soapy water, and then all we do is we fill them and then cap them while hot is the plan. Just like that. And then keep on going. So that's all I'm going to do, is keep straining and filling and capping I don't know how many I'll get. 6 maybe. We'll see. I normally only have to make Worcestershire sauce once a year. Depends on what I do with it, but generally speaking. So I'm gonna just keep going. All right, so I've got 6 full of the passata jars, and I've started filling just a quart jar. I'm just letting this drip through. So I'm going to put that aside with this jar to keep on topping that up. I'm going to put these aside and get started on the pasta now. So I'm going to blend the tomatoes in the Thermomix because I'm going to put them in a pot now. Blending them in the Thermomix means that we're going to add air, so we need to cook the air out of it as well, but we're going to do that, and the roasted garlic cloves that I've got as well. I'm going to get all them pureed up into a pot, and then we'll season them from there. This is just roasted garlic pieces. I'm going to let that defrost just a little bit so I can get it out of the glass container, and this is all tomatoes, so I'm just going to do them in a couple of batches in here and then transfer them to a pot. Actually turned out quite amazing. So I used that whole container of roasted garlic pieces because as I've mentioned, I've got new garlic coming in a couple of weeks. So I used all the roasted garlic I had left and all those cherry tomatoes, Truss cherry tomatoes, and it's pretty darn good. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but first up I'm going to heat it just to cook some of that air out. Do I want to leave it as like a soup, or I don't know. So let's heat it first. We'll add a little bit more flavour to it. We might add a little bit of that new Worcestershire sauce, a bit of salt. We may need a little bit of sugar, we will see. But it's pretty amazing as is. So let's get it heated first up. All right, so we've got potatoes baking in the oven. I've got risotto left over. I don't know how much risotto is left over. I've got this tomato soupy sauce stuff, and I also have this like 500 grams of chicken mince, and there's 500 grams of beef mince that were from the hamper and in the freezer. I just want to use. Now, I wouldn't normally mix beef and chicken I'm going to make some meatballs, but it's not going to hurt. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix the two of them, and we're going to season them. I'm going to put an egg in here. I'm going to put some panko breadcrumbs, some onions, some garlic, some salt, some pepper, a bit of Worcestershire sauce, and just make some really simple meatballs out of this mixed beef and chicken. And then I'm going to probably put them on a baking tray and stick them in the oven because I've got the oven going with the potatoes baking. And then we'll have these with some marinara sauce, some leftover risotto, and some baked potato. I don't know. It's a throw together thing, and it will give me a few bits and pieces that I can then use for lunches for the next couple of days as well, is the idea. So I'm just going to throw, as I said, an egg, Worcestershire sauce, panko, some salt and pepper, that sort of thing in here, and we'll get them rolled up. Just rolling them into smallish meatballs. I'm not measuring them or anything, but it just reminded me when I first started YouTube. So I've been doing YouTube for like, I don't know, 5 years or something now, 4 years or something. When I first started doing it, we didn't have much money at all. Like, we were counting every cent for everything we did. And I weighed everything. I weighed meatballs, I weighed all my bread products, I weighed everything because there was 8 of us at home. And I had to make sure that there was enough for everyone, that everyone got, especially when you've got children who, you know, squabble over who gets what, they needed to have the same amount to keep that, you know, right, but also needed to make sure that there was enough for every meal for every child and us as well. And so I used to weigh my meatballs because then I'd know exactly how many I'd get from each batch of mince. I'd know how many were in the freezer, all that sort of thing. And I got a lot of crap about it. So grateful I don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's the meatballs done. I'm going to throw them in the oven with the potatoes, and then we'll figure out from there. All right, because I put so much roasted Well, we've got issues with the camera for some reason. Why is it doing what it's doing? I don't know. Anyway, because I had issues with, because I put the amount of roasted garlic in this that I did, and I'm not comfortable water bath canning the tomato, so it would need to be pressure canned. And honestly, I'm pooped. I've had enough. So what I've done, I'm going to go into these more in another video because I bought some generic brands and some super cube brands of these, and I've been freezing bits and pieces of leftovers in them. So I've got 2 here that I've just filled with this tomato soup marinara type mixture. I've also filled one with risotto as well. I did contemplate doing one of these with some of the meatballs and the tomato, because the meatballs are cooked and they're actually quite tasty. They're pretty neutral flavoured because I purposely didn't overdo anything, but they're pretty tasty. And I have 3 of these in the freezer that have green chicken curry and coconut rice in them that I could pull them out and put them in bags now and then do a bit more in these. But I think I might leave it because there might be, I can always leave these as is in the freezer and I can use what's here as lunches for the next couple of days, and these can go in for the next couple of weeks sort of thing. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I've got 2 with the tomato in it, 1 with the risotto in it. I'll see how much risotto is left at the end of today, but I might just use these, what's left as lunches as well. Now the oven did run out of gas while we were cooking these things, but these feel like they're done. I even had one pop, so it should be right. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these like I normally would. Very hot. Middle like that, across in the middle, and then do the pop. See, we got these hot opened up baked potatoes like this, and then they can have some butter, cheese, and whatever they want with them served beside the risotto and the meatballs and a bit of the marinara sauce. That is the plan. And Darryl can just have some meatballs with marinara sauce or whatever he wants as well. So that is it for today. I think I got everything done that I needed to. My videos are all over the place at the moment. There has been a lot of change that has happened over the last 3 months, 8 weeks, whatever. So we're still getting into a bit of a rhythm, and I'd really like to find a rhythm because YouTube is suffering a little bit at the moment, so we're getting there. Anyway, it is Saturday. Next week is my 6 weekly grocery shop, so over the next few days I need to figure that out. I need to do my inventories and everything, but I also have half a cow arriving tomorrow or Monday, amongst other things. And I'm also working a 2-day week next week, and one of those days is a conference in Goondiwindi, so I have to adjust my shopping accordingly. So busy week ahead. We also have run short on a few things from the last grocery shop. I think that I underbought a little bit last trip because I overbought a little bit the trip before, and I should know better. Because I should still keep my basics at my basic levels no matter what, and I didn't. So we have run out of olive oil and ghee. I have a bulk 10 litre tub of ghee on order, which we like to have that here. I buy the ghee from Costco, and then I have the big 10 litre tub that I use to refill my jars if I run short of the Costco stuff. But at the moment we have run out. I did run out of butter, but Darryl bought me a little bit in town, so I do have some butter, which will come in handy with the lack of ghee. And I don't think I've got vegetable oil either, other than strained vegetable oil, which like I've used to fry, and then I strain it to use to refry again, but I won't use that in a lot of other things because it's got flavour to it. I can use it in pans though, but I wouldn't use it in my cooking as such. So I think this is probably the only bit of clean oil I have left, but as I said, I do have butter. I will double check. I do have some peanut oil though, which is perfectly fine for us to use in a lot of things because we don't have any peanut issues. And I do need to make more chili oil with that peanut oil, but I still have 3 containers of it, I think, because I bought a little bit extra because we're going through that chili oil fairly quickly. So I might be able to use that in my bread actually. Darryl has a bit of a sinus infection, upper respiratory infection at the moment, so he's not feeling real well. And I suggested making some of those ham scrolls again, which he was very keen on, even though he hasn't been doing the carb, but because he's not feeling well, has been. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to mix up that dough. All right, so that dough is proofing. I've diced up the bacon. Darryl had a bit of bacon for lunch, and then I've diced up the rest of it. And what I have decided I'm going to do, so last night for dinner we had sushi. And so in the efforts of cleaning out our freezers, I had 2 bags of the seafood salad mix, the seafood extender, faux crab. And so what I did last night was we had sushi for dinner using that, and they had the leftovers for lunch today. But I pulled out both bags to defrost thinking we'd need both, and we didn't. So what I'm going to do is I have some puff pastry in the freezer as well that needs to be used. I actually have spring roll pastry as well, so I could do it that way, but we'll see how I go. And I'm going to make like a white sauce seafood mix, a nice really thick white sauce seafood mix that can go inside the pastries. I was going to originally do chicken, like a chicken pot pie and pastry type thing, but then realized that I had this, and this will be super tasty. So I've fried off this bacon. I'm going to pull this bacon out, and I'm going to make the white sauce roux in here. I'm going to add the seafood mix. I might grab some corn out, because corn's always good with creamy sauces. I could do mixed veggies, I suppose. We'll see. And then I've got a little bit of cream cheese, but not a huge amount. But I do have some Laughing Cow cheese, so I might sort of do a bit of a blend of all that sort of thing mixed together. And then this can chill for a few hours before I wrap it in whatever I'm going to wrap it in for dinner. Spring roll pastry is probably not great because I do have some frying oil. I don't know. I'll make the decision. But anyway, I'm going to mix up the white sauce, and then I will get the dough done with the ham stuff. And then I'm going to have to see what else needs doing. I did pull some chicken out to defrost, so I do have 2 kilos of chicken breast that will need something done with them as well, because I hadn't decided what I was doing for dinner. But anyway, that's another task. So I'm going to pull the solids out of here, leave the fat behind, add a bit of butter, flour, make a white sauce. All right, now we need our roux to be pretty thick because we don't want this seeping out of the whatever I decide to contain it in, but we also want it to be nice and rich. So I got a good sort of tablespoon and a bit probably of butter in the bottom here that I'm just melting. There's a little bit of excess bacon in here, and we're going to pick up all that schmaltz type stuff off the bottom as well. And we're going to add some flour, probably, I don't know, half a cup. I might add a little bit more. I'll have a look at I might add a little bit more flour. Probably the same again, so we got about a cup. We want this into a sort of a dry crumble to toast that flour off. And then I have some UHT milk that I grabbed off the shelf, so it's room temp, not cold. And we're going to use that. Just going to toast this off a little bit first. Now normally I would do this in the Thermomix because then I don't have to mix it, because white sauce is one of the things that is pretty hard on my hands and arms, but because of what we're doing, I needed to get it done this way, so it is what it is. So we're just going to toast this off, add a little bit of milk, and keep toasting that flour off. Picking up some of that seasoning from the bottom. We want to be able to smell sort of like a nutty smell, which is that flour toasting, so that you don't have that raw flour flavour in your roux. I forgot, I also have some garlic. From the freezer, so I'm just going to break that up in here while we're blending all of this. And it will dissolve. Pot handles are hot.
If you don't add the milk a little bit at a time, you won't be able to emulsify it into the flour. You'll just end up with a lumpy mess, which is why we don't add the litre all at once, even if I know that I'm probably going to need that litre. All right, so that is smooth enough for our purposes, because we're going to be adding a lot of lumpy things into there, so it's not such a big deal. So we're not eating it like drizzled over something, we're eating it as part of a sauce. So if there's a few lumps in it, they will, and it's going to be cooked again in pastry or whatever. So if there's a few lumps, it's not such a big deal. So I've turned the heat down to low. I'm breaking up the cream cheese, I've added the bacon, and I need to slice up the seafood mix. I'm going to add a bit of our homemade Worcestershire sauce. Get this blended up and melted. Yeah, there's cheese in lumps in there at the moment too. And then we're just going to break up all the egg or the faux crab into the sauce as well. There's still some chunks of cream cheese and stuff in there, so we're still melting that as we blend through. I'm going to put a couple of the Laughing Cow cheese in there as well. I remembered when I was cleaning out the freezers that I have roasted corn kernels from fresh corn with paprika and all that sort of stuff on it, so that will be really good flavour. I will need to let it defrost a little bit before I can stir it through. But this is mostly done, so I'm going to add that smoky corn to it, and I'm going to taste it, maybe add a little bit of salt, we'll see, but that's pretty much done and just has to chill now. So I'm just going to put a lid on it, let it come to room temp, and then put it in the bottom of the fridge, and we'll use that later. Alright, so the dough is proofed. I'm going to halve this and do 2 lots as I normally do. When I did the ham one last time, the dough was a little bit wet, and I think that was the big sheets of ham with the mayo and the dough holding too much moisture in those middle bits. So I've actually sliced the ham up this time. I think that'll work better to dice the ham up. But I'm also going to use apple butter barbecue because we're out of oil to make more mayo. So I'm going to do it with apple butter barbecue this time. So the dough is a little tacky today. I think it's just the weather. So I'm just going to get it into a nice, easy to handle roll as normal, split it in 2 the same way I've been doing lately, and yeah, I'm just going to use apple butter barbecue, diced ham and cheese. So I've shown this numerous times recently. Not going to show the whole process again, but I'll show it to you in the, in the last steps and stuff. We get this done. I put the frozen corn in the pot just on the top, broke it up and put it on the top, put the lid on it. It'll defrost enough that I'll be able to mix it through. It's already cooked and it's going to be cooked again in pastry or whatever, so it doesn't need to be cooked in the pot. So yeah, gonna grate some cheese, get these done and in the oven. Scrolls for the day done. Well, they'll be tomorrow as well. And the filling for the pastry for later is chilling, so I will come back to that in a bit, but these are done, so we're gonna have these. It's 2:20. Probably won't do too much else for today. There's heaps that needs to be done, but yeah, it's really warm again. I don't know what the temperature is. I have to check the weather station, but 35. So not excessive, but not great either. 35. And yeah, we're just going to take it easy for a bit, and I'll come out in a couple of hours to fill the pastry with the thing and maybe do some mashed potato or something with it. But we're going to eat these for now. So we have store-bought puff pastry. I just buy the Borgs from Costco. I'm just cutting it into 4 pieces. And then all I'm going to do is grab a scoop of our seafood Mornay stuff, like that. And I'm going to, I don't know if that's going to be too much. And I'm going to pull the pastry over and we're going to crimp. So we've got triangle, and then the goal is to get everything inside that and crimp the edges. So just like that. I might grab a fork just to crimp those edges a little bit more securely. Just like that. And we've got little pasties. Now, some of these I'll probably freeze straight like this, I think. And some will bake off today. So I'm going to grab a baking tray, some baking paper, and put them in the oven, and I'll show them to you when they're done. 3 full trays in the freezer, 2 in the oven for dinner. I've got a little bit left of the filling here. I'm just going to put that in the fridge for the moment because I've got 2 sheets of pastry left. And so I'm going to quickly, now that dinner's done, I've got some canned cinnamon apples, and I'm going to make some quick apple turnovers with the last 2 sheets of pastry. So we'll have some cinnamon apple pie, hand pie things for dessert is the plan. And I'll get these in the oven and I'll put some egg wash on them and put some raw sugar on top. So we'll do that as dessert with the last 2 sheets of pastry. And I will have to buy pastry this shopping trip, but there is 3 full trays. I can't remember how many I put on a tray of those, of the crab pastries, but they can be pulled straight out of the freezer into the oven for lunches or quick meals or whatever once they're snap frozen, so they will work really well. Hopefully they taste good, the filling tastes good, and most things wrapped in pastry taste good. So just doing exactly the same thing with the cinnamon apples, like that, on the tray. My pastry's pretty soft at the moment because of the heat. It's been out for a while. I've got the egg wash. I'm just going to egg wash them like that, and then I'm going to sprinkle them like that with the raw sugar, and we'll bake these off as dessert after dinner. And this is how they turned out. So crispy pastry with the creamy filling on the inside. So they've got the creamy seafood filling on the inside, and they will be super tasty.